She was warned never to return. The gorilla she raised as a child was now a full-grown silverback, wild, unpredictable, and untouchable. The forest grew. But when Sophia stepped into the jungles of Gabon after nearly 20 years, what happened next witnessed speechless. The massive gorilla turned locked eyes with her and began to walk closer. The guide shouted for her to run, but she didn't move. What came next would defy everything scientists believed about animals and memory. Stay with me, because this reunion will change the way you think about love ever. When Sophia Rowe was 5 years old, she watched a dying gorilla take its final breath in her father's arms. The sound of that labored human life would stay with her. It was the moment she learned that the wild would break your heart, and that love sometimes comes covered in fur and silence. Her father, Dr. Martin Rowe, founded the Rowe Wildlife Foundation in the rolling green of the Cotswolds, where he had built acres of forested refuge for injured and orphaned animals. To Sophia, it was never just a reserve. It was home. The hum of cities replaced city noise. And the only lullaby she knew was the rhythm of animal calls echoing from the trees. Then came Abu. He was no bigger than a loaf of bread when the rangers carried him in his mother slain by poachers on the edge of a logging road. His breathing was shallow, his tiny fingers still clutching air as if searching for the warmth he had lost. Most didn't believe he would survive the night. But Sophia, standing on her tiptoes beside the incubator, whispered, "Please don't leave," as if her voice alone could tether him to life. Somehow he stayed. Every morning before school, she crept into the nursery to check on him. Every evening she sat by his enclosure, reading stories in the dim yellow light. And when he was strong enough to crawl, he reached for her hand, wrapping his dark fingers around her with a gentleness that stunned every caretaker in the building. The bond was immediate, uncanny, and unsettling. Martin told himself it was harmless, that a child's empathy might help the orphan gorilla heal. But even he couldn't shake the unease of watching the creature's eyes track Sophia with something that felt almost. Months passed. Abu began to walk. He followed Sophie everywhere, to the feeding yard, the pond, even the kitchen window where she pressed her face to the glass to blow kisses. The other staff joked that she was a shadow in a fur coat. But there were days when that shadow moved too fast, when its strength startled even her father. By the time Abu turned 3, he was stronger than any adult on the property. One afternoon, while the staff repaired an enclosure fence, a loud crash shattered the stillness. Sophia had wandered inside Abu's play area without permission. When the gorilla saw her, he bolted toward her with a speed that froze every witness. For a heartbeat, everyone thought it was an attack. But when Martin reached the gate, he saw Abu crouched protectively over his daughter, shielding her from a falling branch that had snapped loose above. He wasn't hurting her, he was saving her. Still, the sight of that massive body wrapped around a fragile human child struck something primal in every onlooker. Fear and wonder fused into one. After that day, rumors began to spread. Was the gorilla tame, or was the girl too wild? Neighbors whispered that the Rows had lost their sense of danger. Photographers came hoping to capture the strange pair. Sophia, unaware of the storm building around her, kept playing, laughing, and sharing fruit with her best friend as if nothing could touch them. But Dr. Rowe knew better. He spent decades studying wildlife and understood that love, when given to something untamed, always came with a price. Late at night, as the forest wind rattled the window panes, he would lie awake, wondering which would come first. The day Abu forgot he wasn't one of them, or the day the world decided Sophia was no longer safe with him. In the dim light of the enclosure, Sophia pressed her forehead against the glass while Abu mirrored her from the other side. Their breaths fogged the barrier between them. Two ships separated by fear, by love, by the fragile line that divides wildness from humanity. Neither knew it yet, but their story was only beginning, and the world would soon witness what happens when a bond too deep to name defies everything nature ever intended. As the years unfurled like slow-growing vines, Sophia Rowe's bond with Abu only deepened, become something the human world could neither name nor easily understand. By the time she was 10, the gorilla she once cradled like a child now towered above her, his broad shoulders rolling with quiet strength, his chest rising and falling with the deliberate calm of a king in waiting. Yet to Sophia, he was still the small creature who had once held her finger in his hand. The two shared a language that defied words, a private rhythm of gesture, glances, and small, unspoken promises. Every morning, when the forest was still heavy with mists, Sophia would tiptoe across the dew-soaked grass toward the enclosure. Kuma would already be awake, his dark eyes following her silhouette as if he had been waiting all night. When she appeared, he would beat his chest softly, not with dominance, but with a kick of joy, and lower himself until his face would level with hers. Sophia would press her palm to the fence, and Kuma would mirror the gesture, their hands separated only by the thin mesh of human caution. She often joked that the fence wasn't to protect from Abu. It was to protect the rest of the world from misunderstanding him. Her father, Dr. Martin Rowe, watched from a distance, notebook in hand, pretending to focus on behavioral patterns, but really observing something else entirely: devotion. He saw how Sophia's laughter seemed to disarm the wildness in Abu, how the gorilla would bear branches heavy with fruit or small stones polished by the river. It was a courtship of kindness, a ritual of trust between species. Still behind Martin's careful notes, worry festered. Abu's strength was growing faster than Sophia's understanding of danger. What would happen when his instincts one day overpowered memory? One afternoon, a film crew from a wildlife documentary visited the foundation. They wanted to capture what they called a miracle of coexistence. The air was electric with nerves as cameras rolled, and the world prepared to meet the girl who played with giants. Sophia, dressed in her father's old khaki jacket, entered the edge of the enclosure as she always had. Abu approached her slowly, his great hand brushing the earth, his nostrils flamed to take in her scent. When he reached her, he did something that made the cameraman gasp. Knelt, rested his forehead against hers. For a moment, the forest itself seemed to go still, but not everyone saw tenderness in the gesture. The footage spread quickly, and so did the outrage. Headlines screamed recklessness, child endangered by gorilla zoo, negligence, madness. The same image that had captured the world's on now fueled its fear. The authorities intervened within weeks, demanding stricter barriers, stricter rules, stricter distance. For the first time, Sophia was told she could no longer touch Abu. The separation broke her. She stood outside the reinforced glass wall, pressing her hand to the cold surface where she had once felt warmth. Abu, confused, would mimic her every movement from the other side, his breath fogging the glass as if trying to find her scent again. Sometimes he would thump his chest in frustration, his deep calls echoing across the valley like morning songs. Staff members said it was dangerous behavior. Martin knew better. It was grief. He tried to explain it to her gently. He doesn't understand rules, Sophia. He said he only understands that you're gone. But the words offered no comfort. She stopped eating for days, sleeping with the stuffed gorilla she had since she was small. In the mornings, when she could no longer bear the weight of her own stillness, she would sneak out to the edge of the enclosure and sit for hours reading aloud so that Abu could hear her voice. Through the glass, Gorilla would press his ear close, listening as if the cadence of her words alone was enough to keep the world in balance. Time passed, and though the distance never lessened, something beautiful began to grow in its place. An understanding that love, even when divided by glass and fear, could still exist. Sophia learned to watch him from afar to recognize his new signs of maturity, the deliberate calm before a storm. The gentle care showed to the younger gorillas introduced into the group. Abu had become a leader, steady, protective, and wise. Sometimes when he sat watching the horizon, Sophia imagined he was remembering her, too. The small human who once fed him mango slices under the sun. Martin began preparing for the inevitable day Abu would return to the wild. The Foundation's mission had always been to heal and release, not to cage. Yet, when he looked at his daughter, who stood so still by the glass every evening, he wondered if it was possible to save both the animal and the child without breaking one of them. One night, as crickets sang and rain whispered on the roof, Martin found Sophia asleep on the couch, her hand curled around one of Abu's old photographs. He brushed her hair back and whispered, "You taught him how to love, my girl. Now you must teach yourself how to let go." But letting go would never be simple. Because sometimes when Sophia looked through the glass at Abu, she could swear he was looking right back into her, as if seeing not the child she had been, but the reflection of every promise they'd ever made. Two beings separated by rules and reason, yet bound by something older and truer, something that spoke a language beyond words. When Sophia turned 18, the same jungle that had once echoed with her laughter now stood between her and the creature she loved most. Abu had grown into a magnificent silverback, broad-shouldered, commanding with a gaze that carried the weight of something ancient and knowing. The Roe Wildlife Foundation had finally reached its goal, a sanctuary in the heart of Gabon, where gorillas like Abu live wild again. For Martin, it was the culmination of decades of work. For Sophia, it felt like heartbreak disguised as success. The announcement came on a golden afternoon. Martin gathered his staff beneath the large acacia tree where the gorillas often played. "It's time," he said quietly. "Abu's ready." The words were heavy, both a victory and a farewell. Sophia stood at the edge of the clearing, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She had known this day would come, but knowing didn't soften the ache. Kuma wasn't just another success story. He was family, the brother she never had, the friend who had seen her through every chapter of childhood. That night, while the others celebrated, Sophia sat alone on the back steps of the cabin, listening to the nocturnal chorus of insects and distant hoots. She thought about the first time she held Abu, how his fingers had curled weakly around hers, and how every breath had been a battle. She had promised him then that he would never be alone. Now she wondered if releasing him meant breaking that promise. Her father joined her in the darkness, sitting silently for a while before speaking. "Love," he said, "isn't about some close. It's about giving it the life it was meant to have." The next morning, she went down to Abu's enclosure one last time. The early light filtered through the mist, gilding the world in a fragile glow. Kuma was sitting by the far fence, his great hands resting on his knees, watching her with the same quiet focus he always had. As she approached, he rose slowly to his full height. Even after all these years, the sheer size of him took her breath away. He came close to the barrier, lowering his head until his eyes met hers through the mesh. Sophia pressed her hand against it. He mirrored her palm to palm, skin to steel. "Do you know?" she whispered. "Do you understand that you're leaving?" His response was a soft rumble, a sound that vibrated deep in her chest. He didn't pull away. Instead, he lifted his hand higher, pressing it harder against hers until she could feel the tremor of his heartbeat through the thin divide. And then, as if the world itself was listening, he made a sound she hadn't heard since childhood. A low, guttural hum he used to make when he was content sitting beside her under the sun. The tears came before she could stop them. The day of departure arrived under a restless sky. A truck waited at the edge of the forest, its crate lined with soft straw and fresh leaves. The staff moved carefully, guiding Abu inside, avoiding eye contact, keeping their distance. They were professionals, but they were moved to silence when the gorilla turned to look at Sophia. He didn't resist. He didn't roar or fight. He simply watched her, his eyes steady and calm, as though he knew that this separation wasn't an ending, but a beginning she couldn't yet see. When the doors closed, Sophia's legs gave out. She sank to the ground, her palms pressed into the dirt, her breath coming in shallow bursts. Martin knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "He'll be okay," he said. He was born to belong there. But as the truck rumbled away down the road, carrying the heart of her childhood into the unknown, Sophia wasn't sure who he was trying to comfort, his daughter or himself. Days turned into weeks, and the silence in the compound grew unbearable. The once lively chatter of the sanctuary felt hollow without the thrum of Abu's presence. Sophia threw herself into work, helping with hunger rescues, organizing supplies, writing reports. But every evening when the sun dipped below the treetop, she found herself walking to the empty enclosure on the same worn stone where she used to feed him mango slices. Sometimes she spoke to the telling story of him to keep his name alive in the air. Months later, a letter arrived from the sanctuary in Gabon. Inside was a photograph. In it, Abu stood in a clearing surrounded by lush green. A new family of gorillas beside him. His posture was regal, his eyes bright. He looked free. Sophia stared at the image for a long time, her emotions folding into each other. Grief, pride, wonder. She realized then that the love they shared hadn't vanished. It had transformed. It had become part of the wild that now embraced him. That night, she took the photo and placed it on her nightstand. Before turning off the light, she whispered, "You made it, my friend. You're home." In that quiet, she finally understood what her father had meant, that the truest kind of love asks for courage. The courage to let go, to trust that what you've nurtured will survive without you. In the end, Sophia didn't lose Abu. She set him free. And in doing so, she set herself free, too. 15 years passed before Sophia returned to Gabon. The year had been kind to her in some ways, cruel in others. She had become her father's successor at the Roe Wildlife Foundation, overseeing conservation programs across continents. Yet every night when the forest wind sighed through her office window, her thoughts always drifted to the same image, Abu, standing proud and wild under the African sun. She had promised herself she would never interfere again. But promises made to ease pain are rarely permanent. It was her father's illness that changed everything. When Martin's health began to decline, he confessed one last wish to visit the sanctuary in Gabon again to see with his own eyes the gorillas he had dedicated his life to saving. "If I can see Kuma one last time," he said softly from his hospital bed, "I'll know we did something right." Sophia's heart twisted. She knew what that meant. It wasn't just his farewell to the animals. It was his farewell to life itself. Within weeks, she arranged the trip. The flight to Africa felt longer than she remembered. Each hour seemed to peel back layers of memory. The scent of hay and earth, the echo of distant call, the weight of Abu's hand in hers. As their small chartered plane descended over the dense green expanse of Lango National Park, Sophia felt something inside her tighten, a mix of anticipation and fear. What if he was gone? What if he had forgotten her? Or worse, what if seeing her again would only confuse the wildness he'd fought to reclaim? The local rangers greeted them warmly at the base camp, guiding them through the humid labyrinth of jungle trails. Sophia was struck by the vibrancy of the forest, the pulse of life in every leaf and wing beat. Her father, frail but determined, leaned on her arm as they walked. "You smell that?" he said, smiling faintly. "That's what peace smells like." His voice trembled, but there was light in it. On the third morning, they boarded a small boat that would take them upriver toward the guerrilla troops' territory. The water was dark and slow-moving, reflecting the canopy above like a mirror of endless green. As they drifted deeper into the heart of the sanctuary, the rangers spoke in low voices, explaining that contact had to be controlled. The gorillas were fully wild now, territorial, unpredictable, and unaccustomed to human presence. Sophia nodded, though her pulse quickened. Rules could not cage the pull of memory. When they finally reached the clearing, the first sound she heard was a low rumble, deep, resonant, familiar. The guide motioned for them to stop. He asked close, he whispered, and then through the foliage, she saw him. Abu. Her breath caught. He was immense now, his silver back gleaming in the filtered sunlight, his movements deliberate and assured. Around him 2 younger females, and their offspring lingered, their curiosity tempered by his calm authority. He was no longer the orphan child she had once fed. He was a patriarch, a leader, a creature belonging entirely to the wild. Yet, as she watched him move, he saw fragments of the old Abu, the tilt of his head, the way his fingers brushed the ground as he walked, the stillness that always preceded his gaze. The rangers warned her to stay back, but when Abu turned his eyes toward her, something primal over reason, she stepped forward. The world seemed to hold its breath. Her father called her name sharply, but it was too late. Abu was already moving. The great gorilla closed the distance between them in seconds. The rangers froze, their hands twitching toward tranquilizer rifles. But Sophia didn't move. She couldn't. Abu stopped just a few feet away, his massive frame casting her in shadow. For a long, trembling moment, neither moved. His nostrils flared as he took in her scent, his deep amber eyes searching her face. And then, with a sound that seemed to rise from the earth itself, he exhaled a low, melodic hum. Sophia's throat tightened. "You remember," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. She extended her hand, trembling, but open. Abu reached out slowly, curling his fingers around her wrist, his touch impossibly gentle for something so powerful. She could feel the roughness of his palm, the steady rhythm of his pulse. When he leaned forward and rested his head lightly against hers, the forest erupted in quiet awe. Even the guides, seasoned as they were, turned away to hide their tears. Behind her, Martin was crying too. "My God," he murmured, voice breaking. He remembers her after all these years. He remembers. The reunion lasted only minutes, but time seemed to dissolve within it. The young gorillas approached, cautiously, tugging at Abu's fur as if sensing that this was something sacred. Sophia whispered softly, telling him about the foundation, about her father, about how she had missed him every day. Abu made a soft chuffing sound, then released her and stepped back, his eyes lingering on her one final time before turning toward the jungle. As he disappeared into the trees, Sophia felt her chest ache, not from sadness, but from something larger, something uncontainable. She had feared that the years apart would erase the bond they shared. Instead, she had witnessed proof that love once rooted deeply enough could survive even the wild. That night, as she and her father sat under the stars, Martin took her hand. "You see, Sophia," he said quietly, "didn't he forget, because love isn't something animals learn. It's something they already know." Sophia smiled through her tears, gazing at the distant tree where Abu had vanished. In that moment, she realized her journey had come full circle. She hadn't returned to reclaim the past. She had come to witness what happens when you let love run free and find that it never truly leaves you. Years slipped away like rivers, carving their paths unseen but enduring. After that miraculous reunion in Gabon, Sophia and her father returned home to England carrying something far greater than photographs or memories. They carried proof that love once given freely never truly fades. For a time, Martin's health stabilized as if the sight of Abu thriving in his natural home had granted him the peace his body had long been craving. He spent his remaining years writing about the sanctuary, about the quiet miracle of trust between species, and about the lessons the wild had taught him. When he asked, it was gentle, almost like an animal returning to the forest. Sophia buried him under the same oak where he used to read to her as a child, his headstone etched with the words, "He believed love could cross any distance." The world moved on, but for Sophia, the memory of that moment in the clearing never dulled. She often dreamt of Abu's golden eyes, of the warmth of his hand on hers, of the unspoken recognition between two beings who had once shared a single heartbeat of innocence. She had seen what most people would never believe, that the heart, whether human or animal, keeps its own record of kindness. Years later, when the Roe Foundation expanded, Sophia became its director. She traveled the world, Indonesia, Borneo, the Congo, establishing programs to protect endangered primates. Yet, no matter how far she went, Gabon called to her like a distant drum beat. Eventually, she answered. When she arrived at the sanctuary again, the air felt heavier, richer, as though the forest itself remembered her footsteps. The rangers who greeted her spoke of Abu in reverent tones. He had become the elder of his troop, known for his unusual calm and his habit of watching the routes, as though waiting for something or someone. Her heart tightened at the thought. She knew better to expect another meeting. The wild didn't belong to her anymore. It never really had. Still one evening, as the sun melted in gold, she walked alone to the edge of the forest. The air was thick with the scent of rain and ripe fruit. She paused near the clearing where they had met years before and whispered softly, "Abu, if you can't hear me, I just wanted to say thank you." There was no movement at first, only the hum of cicadas and the distant echo of the river. Then from beyond the tree came a low rumble, deep and familiar. Her breath caught. She turned just in time to see a shadow move between the trees. He was older now, gray or slower, but unmistakably Abu. He didn't come all the way out, just stood there half-hidden watching her. Sophia felt her throat tighten. "You remembered," she whispered. She didn't move closer, didn't call his name again. She simply bowed her head, a silent acknowledgement between old friends. For a moment he stayed there, the great king of the forest, framed by the glow of the dying sun. Then, with a final low sound that rippled through her bones like a heartbeat, he turned and disappeared back into the green. Tears came, but they weren't sad. They were full of awe. The circle was complete. She realized then that love didn't need proximity to survive. It lived quietly in memory, in the things we teach and the compassion we leave behind. When Sophia finally left Gabon, she looked one last time at the horizon where forest met sky. Somewhere out there, a gorilla she once held as a baby was raising new generations, passing down not only strength but gentleness, too. And in that truth, she found peace. Because what the heart remembers, it keeps forever. There are stories that fade when they end. And then there are stories like Sophia and Abu which live on in the quiet corners of the heart. Their journey reminds us that love doesn't belong to one species, one place, or even one lifetime. It is something larger, something wilder, something that survives separation, time, and change. Sophia once believed she was raising Abu, teaching him how to trust, how to live. But in truth, it was Abu who taught her about patience, about courage, and about the kind of love that doesn't demand possession. When she let him go, she didn't lose him. She gave him the freedom he was born for. And when he remembered her years later, it wasn't instinct or chance. It was recognition. The heart, after all, never forgets kindness. This story is more than a tale of a woman and a gorilla. It's a reflection of how deeply all life is connected. It challenges us to see the wild not as something separate from us, but as something sacred within us. Every act of compassion, whether toward an animal, another person, or the earth itself, ripples outward in ways we may never fully see. Love, when given freely, never truly disappears. It transforms. It echoes. It returns. Sophia's bond with Abu reminds us that the most powerful relationships aren't built on words, but on understanding the silent moments of trust that bridge the gap between fear and faith. In a world that often moves too fast and forgets too easily, their story asks us to slow down, to notice, to care a little more. Because sometimes the smallest gesture of empathy can alter the course of a life, human or otherwise. So if this story touched your heart, let it be more than just a moment of emotion. Let it be a reminder to lead with kindness, to protect what is fragile, and to never underestimate the power of connection. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories that celebrate hope, resilience, and the wild beauty of the world we share, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Your support gives us the strength to keep telling these powerful true tales that remind us all love has no boundaries, and every heart, no matter how wild, can